I'm that girl who's going to help you understand the difference between a twin flame and a soulmate. And it seems like there is this new trend that's going on where I'm seeing many people call themselves twin flames. Cute, right? Oh, look at the flower behind it, that beautiful sunflower. I think it's a teddy sunflower. And it is very fiery. And now I just noticed the coincidence of it. Nothing's on accident. Everything is super purposeful, and it may take us some time to realize. Anyway, there's quite a few things I want to talk to you, and I see if I can figure out how to combine it all quickly in before mansplaining the bejesus out of things. So there's that. So twin flame, soulmate, very different, my friends, very different. And it seems like there is a new trend to start calling people twin flames. That's cute and all. Be whoever you want to be, have whatever pronouns and labels you want to have on your stuff, cool and all. But let's explore it from a metaphysical perspective rather than sort of ego, 3D concepts and mindsets. So from my understanding, having many sessions and asking about the relationships between certain people with my client, we're sort of finding out. And first of all, our subconsciouses aren't labeling our interactions and our friends and our families and lovers, all the many, many, many lovers we've had. I'm in that mood today. Saturday morning is always fun. So anyway, so when I'm asking, the subconscious isn't saying, oh, that's a love match, that's a twin soul flame, blah, 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 because, he's an Aquarius and she's a leprechaun. Yeah. Aquarius and a leprechaun, so compatible, right? Look at me, not really knowing astrology, because when we ask in our subconsciouses, we don't ask in sessions with our subconsciouses, they're not saying, well, he's a perfect match for you because his sun and moon are rising at the same time as your equinox or something. They don't deal with that. That's very 3D. And as we know, many other cultures, when things were in balance and in harmony, the best way to kind of understand what the universe wants you to know and to be aware of, we use planetary alignments and all that sort of fun stuff. And many people who remember other lifetimes where we were focusing on the planetary systems and blah, 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 and trying to put everyone into little boxes, we started having labels and assumptions and that kind of tool and that method sort of was fantastic for people to have those tools to be able to kind of feel into their intuition, to be able to understand what was going on and why. And so moving forward, the subconscious isn't saying, oh, well, the husband's a twin flame, blah, 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 blah. It's not. It's all about contracts. And this is the next thing I want to talk to you about, if I can get there, is the difference between free will and fate. Very interesting. So let me explain the basics first of how I'm understanding things from when I'm questioning the crap out of your subconsciouses and all my clients' subconsciouses is, what is the purpose and significance of that lifetime subconscious? What do they want to learn from each other, right? And the subconscious will always say something along the lines of unconditional love, tolerance, acceptance, a whole lot of that sort of stuff. It's really interesting what they will want to remind the clients why you chose to have these relationships and what you're wanting to learn lesson wise. And so when we use our labels and ask our subconsciouses, who's the twin flames in this relationship with my client? Tell me all of the twin flames. What does it all mean? The subconscious is always going to say something like this. Oh, humans with your beloved 3D labels, you're cute and all. But really, if you want to really be honest and understand what's happening and what a twin flame truly is, it's someone who loves the bejesus out of you, absolutely loves you, soul level, love you. We actually, spoiler alert, we actually love everyone deeply at a soul level, right? But we may not be loving the character and the play that they are using as a role for us to be able to empower ourselves to have these life experiences, little dances of emotions, and to be able to learn to grow from them, right? So a twin flame, in summary, is someone that loves you deeply, but will fire you, trigger you, and to burn you to grow, okay? And so we're noticing from time to time, it sort of seems like we will have a lot of dead wood in our life just cut from us because it's too heavy, too dragging us down, right? Another way to say it could be when you raise your frequency vibrations, those people who do not hold on to the same frequency vibrations, they sort of fall away, right? So that's when you declutter lower frequency vibrational people with much love, because you've learned from that, you've overgrown from that, and you cannot truly drag all of your friends and family to raise the frequency vibrations along with you. Okay, that's what a lot of people think, and so they hold themselves back as they're waiting for everyone to expand and to raise their frequency vibrations. Unfortunately, they may not have the same life contract as you. Actually, guaranteed they won't have the same life contract as you, okay? Or the same journey. And so we'll be exploring, see if I can get there, time as well. Just going to mansplain the concepts of time and the illusion of time in this conversation too. So, so getting there. So a soulmate is beautiful, okay, but they will also force you to grow. And a soulmate's relationship isn't so fiery, can be so fiery like a soulmate, but you have the bonus feature added experience of a soulmate as, you know, intimate moments with each other, okay? So there is a difference. Soulmates, you're doing it. So mature today. And twin flames, you're probably not doing it, or maybe you've done it once or twice, but you're not in there together, you're experiencing things. So a lot of soulmates are husband and wives, boyfriend, girlfriends, blah, 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 blah. Twin flames can be siblings, right? And unless you're kind of that family, you're not doing it with your siblings, okay? Free will, or it's all your choices. But so that's a difference. So, you know, when people say to me, oh yes, Joe, I'm a twin flame, I'm like, well, tell me more what you think that is. Because, you know, yes, there are many people who have life contracts to trigger people to grow. Absolutely. And, you know, we all know, because we've grown, we've had our own sessions. We know the subconscious will always say, you know, there is no bad triggering. It's all possibilities for growth. And the beautiful thing with a twin flame is that, you know, soul essence, it's usually soul family that have come down to love you, be a part of your life. This is why many of them are siblings, and to love each other, but to, with love, push you to grow, push you to empower yourselves, push you to love yourselves independently. And, you know, that can be very painful. Burns you, right? Burns you when you're not ready to grow. And think of those forest fires where they purposely burn the land to grow, to germinate, because sometimes some seeds won't germinate unless there's fire. Right. And so think about that in terms of, you know, when we don't want to trigger people because we're afraid it's going to hurt their feelings, think about the seeds that will germinate after the burn has cooled down. They've got their composure and they've stopped cursing you out and all that fun stuff that happens when, you know, we are blessing them with our gifts of triggering. So, you know, we're not a victim to this, we're helping them. So lots of times the subconscious has said, you know, with my clients, they're just too polite. They don't want to share their truth with certain people, which they know will trigger them. Okay. And so we're too polite because we don't want to trigger other people. But remember, after it burns, after they, you know, I don't want to say peel their skin off and have new sensations, the seeds will grow and germinate, because I've had to have that fiery experience. And this is why sometimes a lot of missed lovers could actually be twin flames. You know, you've had some fantastic heat of the moment passion and had some great times, blah, 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 but it sort of feels like they're the ones that got away. And no, it's not necessarily like that. They triggered you, gave you new experiences, burnt you to be able to then be independent, to grow upon yourself. Unfortunately, because we're just such loving beings and we love our soul families and we love all our, you know, when we are our high dimensional selves, we are so one, we are so connected, we are just besties, 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 beyond besties. And so when we come here into this lifetime, we're sort of expecting the same connections with others, the same, like basically second skins with each other. And, you know, we are sort of, unfortunately, that kind of looks like codependency here on Earth. And while there are some contracts to find each other, to be soulmates, to grow together, to strengthen, sometimes, you know, you have those ebbs and throws in relationships as, you know, you sort of, have some time to sort of grow independently, and when you come back, you sort of, you know, or it could be this. Anyway, you get what you get what I'm trying to say, is that there is a difference between relationships that we're supposed to have as, you know, husbands and wives with children or whatever, versus you know, friends and relationships that are not supposed to be big, permanent, solid ones, but also you know, to help us grow. Love is always the key here. And even those ones that feel too painful, too prickly, too on fire, you know, those are the ones that are really forcing us to grow quite quickly. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. So again, watch your labels to be able to understand concepts from spiritual gurus and all that sort of stuff. You know, really feel into what is the lessons of each relationship, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, a male man, or something else. I guess maybe there has been some relationships with men or men, otherwise there wouldn't be that pun. Or is it the milkman? I can't know. It's not a pun, it's a saying. Anyway, okay, so there is a difference between what we want to learn from each other, but when we start trying to be clever and start blocking in people into titles and labels, it doesn't serve us because it's very limited. But then, you know, we are in 3D, so I guess, you know, while we're here, we might as well, you know, acknowledge our limitations and how we place things into boxes, and, you know, maybe it's time to take some boxes out and explore upon that. And so that is a great segue into how they've shown me the concept of time. And so you may have heard this before, so bear with me. I'll see if I can summarize it better. Let's talk about someone who's lived 100 years, and each year is one box. And so they assume that linearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 100 is how they experience consciously their lives. And ultimately, they're experiencing that as a conscious concept that they are moving forward, but we know that everything is happening at the same time. So while every box is open and they're adding new experiences of those boxes, we, as we live through it linearly, well, so we have our first year, and everything we experience gets put into that box. And then we have our second year. And so it kind of, we're not going to say the box closes, but no more experiences could be had from each year because we've done them. We've moved on to the next box as we age. But what we can do when we're 90 is that we can reflect back on all those boxes. And if we realize that we were feeling hurt because of neglect or something, when we heal from those experiences, then we can sort of put a lid on that box. Okay, we've done that, you know, and it's not only has it been experienced, but it's been unpacked emotionally, loved, accepted, healed from, growed from, all that sort of stuff that was necessarily done. And so what do those boxes look like? Okay, so while we would love to think they start off being, you know, perfectly square, each year that we sort of move on, the boxes of experiences start sort of taking form and shape. And so if those boxes have been kicked, if we feel like we have emotionally been kicked around and depleted and a whole lot of sort of stuff, they start forming us. And you could sort of say, when we come into this world, we are this sort of perfect vessel, this perfect soul essence. And, you know, the more we live, the more our experiences shape and form us. And then, you know, we get to a point in our life where we realize it's so heavy holding on to all of the traumas, hurts, pains, confusions, a whole lot of emotional stuff that we're still holding on to from all the other years we've lived. We actually start wanting to heal. We actually want to start processing it, understanding the significance of why we're here, and a whole lot of stuff. We may think we're trying to do some inner work. We may actually do some inner work. We may actually do some healing work as well, and reflect on the past of the times those bigger experiences deeply impacted those boxes as we experience and explore it. And so while we can't go back in time, truly, we can't consciously go back in time to fix and heal and do whatever, change the experience, but we certainly can change the perspectives and the understanding of why we had to be pushed around or suppressed or whatever, which was all opportunities to grow and empower ourselves. And once we realize that this is our own independent journey where we are wanting to empower ourselves back into fully being strengthened in our boxes, we are very comfortable with everything that has happened to us because we understand that those were lessons and they were significant for us to feel, explore, learn, and grow from. And while we have chosen certain things because it's fated, because we chose life contracts to make sure in this box 20, I want to experience a big twin flame. And voila, here he comes, you know, all jazz handsy and slick and blah, 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 blah. And on 21, you know, we're going to find out what it feels like to be crushed by that twin flame, to then be able to find ourselves truly and empower ourselves. So when we're 24, fantastic, right? So very significant. But if we are emotionally only focusing on the time of the 21st, where, you know, we were crushed, and we just keep thinking about how we were crushed and crushed and crushed and abandoned and crushed and hopes and dreams gone, blah, 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 blah. You know, we could easily be zipping through all of those boxes and then realize at the age of 50, we've lived our lives around being crushed. And so it's all about self-empowerment when we choose to have self-empowerment. And so, it's really fantastic when you're exploring things in regressions this lifetime. Many of my volunteer, beautiful soul family friends, they get to explore important days in this lifetime where their boxes have been sort of crushed. And it's unfortunate. And sometimes, you know, it really isn't about them. It's not a personal thing why they have been crushed by others. It's really a reflection of what others, you know, are really struggling with to be able to empower themselves to be unconditional loving beings. But, you know, everyone's hurting before they start learning how to empower themselves and understand what the purpose and principles of living on 3D Earth is. And so, you know, it's very fascinating. And unfortunately, sort of, we can from the very get-go have our boxes crushed. And so, you know, it's not uncommon for my clients to experience their birth and to feel like they are a disappointment. And right from the get-go, they have this feeling that they are not welcomed, they're not loved, and they're not surrounded and nurtured with joy. That's very awful, isn't it? But extremely purpose. What kind of advanced, massive, big soul would sign up for that and be like, right from the get-go, I want to be picked on, kicked down, and made to feel really uncomfortable about being here. And so when you choose to see that you're not wanted and that you're not respected and not loved, and you just keep crumpling down those boxes of experiences because you can feel other people's feelings and thoughts. And so when we start believing other people's feelings and thoughts about ourselves, that's when we start indenting the boxes ourselves, and we start looping and looping and looping, and we will start eventually agreeing on those comments about ourselves. And it's a very very challenging time when we trust people and love people and respect people, and yet they're saying things that are really hurtful, really painful, really fiery. And so this was about us sort of being broken down to stop and think, well, am I that person? Am I what they just said? And if we don't love ourselves, and if we don't respect ourselves, and if we don't want to choose to empower ourselves to know our worth, know ourself, regardless of who's telling us what, then we're going to struggle. And so as soon as we start choosing to empower ourselves, you know your intentions, you know your intentions, you feel your intentions, you know when you're trying to manipulate people, you know when you're trying to be dishonest with people, you know when you're trying to truly love people, you know when you're trying to have expectations of people. If I'm your friend, then you've got to be 5 times my friend, blah, 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 blah. What is your motivations for your relationships and your friendships? Because when you can start being truly honest with yourself and seeing all the times that you're wanting things from others when this is really truly a fantastic reflection of what you could give in yourselves, this is when you're going to start strengthening your boxes and sort of pushing out some of those dents yes, he was an alcoholic and he was abusive, and every time he said something about me, for example, that was a reflection on him. And I was being given many opportunities to empower myself, to strengthen myself, is what most subconsciouses would be saying about people who have had experiences with alcoholic parents, for example. But we love them unconditionally as children. We have got this amazing capability of pure love because that's where we've come from. And then we come down here and we're expecting pure love from others, and we've noticed they're a little bit jaded. They've got all their own beaten up boxes and crash and lots of pressure on themselves and blah, 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 blah. I don't think I'm really explaining time very well. But as we're experiencing things linearly, I don't know how I can't say that today, linear. So we consciously experiencing things in a linear fashion. And while we can't change what's already happened and those experiences, we can definitely change the perspective of those lessons of them and realize, gosh, I wasn't really backing myself. I didn't have the confidence to speak and say, I know you're really hurt because I know that's not true about me. So let's look at what's happening for you. Boom, push back that mirror and show them, how they are. So it's very interesting how we respond to each other and why we have had experiences that have been very painful, so painful that we've only had moments where we've just had to be there for ourselves. Often when we have great friends and great family, something tragic happens to us and we're on the phone or reaching out to them and I'm a victim, this is so painful, blah, 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 blah. And then we're only seeking, oh my gosh, you poor thing, that's dreadful. Tell me more about how horrible you feel. And you have these relationships where you're just talking about the shit all day long, anytime you're having, and then he cut me off on the street, and then I was shortchanged, and blah, 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 and a bird pooped on me. It's like I've got bad luck. And then, like you're constantly seeking the problems, because when you have friends that you just share problems with, that is your relationship. You need to have more problems to have that communication, to get the sympathy, the support, and the, oh my goodness, you poor thing. So that's, that can feed into something quite negative, isn't it? So when you have friends that empower you to have great days, to empower yourself, to love yourself, to be able to share higher perspectives and to have conversations about how beautiful life is and how you can find your joy and seek it, that's really truly uplifting. But when most people are not sure how to be happy for others, let alone happy for themselves, it feels very condescending and kind of conceited to be like, I'm loving life. Life is fantastic. I've got so much fucking inner peace. I am just zen and love it and nothing phases me. That's a really challenging statement to have when you know that your friends are struggling, suffering, and looking for all the shit on their shoe to be a victim, to get your sympathy and sorrow. And so many times we have found friends and relationships we were constantly just, they're having coming to us running because they've got a little scraped knee and they want to have a massive pity party, and we play the role of giving them attention and love and sympathy every time they have a little stubbed knee. And eventually we're going to start noticing that they're purposely stubbing their knees just for us to love them. And this is a huge cue and sign for us to be able to start making them think about how they can empower themselves and love themselves and protect themselves, and stop going for density experiences for support, attention. And when those people are constantly seeking out attention because of the tragedies that happen, there's usually a sense of a perspective of neglect and not being loved and supported in their earlier years, or there has been a time where they've been so damaged and impacted. They're trying to get attention and support from that event, but they've forgotten about it. They won't look at it. And the people in their lives that actually formed that may not even be in their lives. So are you being a surrogate for trauma in their past? And it's a very interesting dance. And of course, love is always key. And again, there is a difference between empowering people and disempowering people. So anyway, when we choose to be able to, with love and without being triggered and with just observations, look at all our boxes that we've lived through, to be able to see all of those big lessons as being opportunities for growth, that's when, people can say you can heal the past, but you have to go through it and back it. And, you add in 100 other lifetimes and it gets really fun and interesting. So Uh, Time is very interesting. It is a man-made concept because we think that it is, it expands out and everything's happening at the same time. And so when we can go back and start looking at ways of how this was to give us strength and opportunities to empower ourselves, to strengthen ourselves, to know that we're always here for ourselves. We're never alone because we're with ourselves. We're totally with ourselves, but yet so many people don't see that as a big deal. Oh, well, I'm stuck with me, aren't I? Fantastic. You're amazing. So celebrate that. You're so lucky. Not everyone gets the privilege of hanging out with you, and you get you 24/7. So fucking jazz hands, I say, because, you want to empower yourself. You're not listening to these sessions for anything else, but tips and reminders of how you can empower yourself. So jazz hands for that, I say. So it's exciting times. It's such fantastic times, and we don't need to be fearful of anything. And I know that that's kind of a really bad thing to claim and call someone out on. Oh, you're just afraid. Shock, horror, spiritual herpes. It is terrible, isn't it, to be afraid of something? But seems to be a consistent thing. People know you're not allowed to be afraid, but we are saying you should be facing your fears and seeing what you're afraid of. And lots of spiritual people who are like, I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm super afraid of 5G, chemtrails, fluoride in the water, boogeymen, dark entities, reptilians, and blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. Oh yeah, you're afraid, my friends, you're afraid. And let's go and question why. Because, someone's told you that 5G is going to eat your brains out, or something. And so you're afraid of it because you can't see it. So then you're vulnerable to it. And, you're terrified that it could be happening now. Or what's that twitch? Oh, that's probably, the vibes, blah, blah, blah. That's a fear. And you are focusing and dwelling and expanding your fear. And so, again, think about everything that you're doing in your life and your routines and your belief systems. Do you think that your teams want you to be afraid of 5G and die from 5G? Haven't heard that in sessions. So, interns are free, explore it yourself and see what your subconscious has to say about it, because so many people are wanting to empower themselves, but yet they're blocking themselves by being in so much fear while thinking that they're spiritual because they know concepts and labels. And, they do spiritual stuff like ayahuasca. So they're super hip and cool. There is so much to be grown and learned from the spiritual worlds. And while we know labels and we know names and we, have some crystals up our sleeves, we still have to have the responsibility of a spiritual maturity. And sometimes, people don't want to do that. So all choices. And so choices, we have free will. We can do anything we want, right? But we're also fated, because while we have our free will to come down here off planet, we created a contract. We did this all to ourselves. Aren't we fantastic? Aren't we so bold and sure of ourselves that we could handle anything and be reminded all of this game is to empower ourselves back to love? Of course, right? And so whatever year it took you to get to that point of realizing that self-realization of how to empower ourselves and what the whole principle of living on this planet is, and why many of us are here as humanity is evolving, and so is this planet. Super exciting times, right? Super fantastic. So why are people so afraid of fate, and why are so many people afraid of what their life contracts are? Usually it's a huge problem. They're so insecure of self-sabotage. So they self-sabotage themselves right now. And so they have this assumption, yeah, my higher self probably is a prick too. He's probably planned a whole lot of shit stuff for me. I'm out. I want to change my life contract. I want to cut karmic ties with people. I don't want those lessons. I don't want to even learn those lessons. I'm a free will agent. I create my reality. All cute. Love it. If that keeps you high vibrational, keep going. If you want to expand upon that more, have your own sessions and hear from your subconscious about how you can change your life contracts, and they will tell you it straight. They're not shy, and they know exactly what you're ready to hear. And so chances are, if you're listening to these sort of sessions, you've been prompted to hear more and be more, to remind yourself how to be more, because you are more. So, it's just the game we play. Fascinating times, isn't it? And so big things are happening. Massive epiphanies are being poured upon people. And what I keep hearing in sessions, you know, when we hear about big events happening that are going to help lots of people have exit points to shift, you know, it sort of feels like, that's a bit of a responsibility, which subconscious says we're not responsible for other people's life contracts. In fact, we're only allowed to respect other people's life contracts for their soul's growth and journey. But sometimes we want to sort of judge it as if it's going to impact our life contracts. And, you know, emotionally, we can be in everyone's business. That's a choice. But usually that's sort of distracting you from our own. You know, when you're in everyone else's business and feel like you've got to save and protect the world, have you started with yourself? Because often it seems like lots of people, I'll deal with me after I save the planet. Well, that's all cute and all, but what are tool sets that you have to save the planet? If you haven't figured out all your purpose and lessons to be able to get you ready to be able to save the planet because of that, you know, there is, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And I say to you, don't be a chicken. We're all eggs, expanding and growing, right? And, you know, we love the analogy of the caterpillar phase that turns into the beautiful butterfly. But remember that there was that egg phase as well. So, you know, there's many layers to evolving and transforming. And when we transcend from this planet, it will be very joyous. So enjoy what we can do now and empower ourselves to strengthen those belief systems. And it seems like we do things on autopilot because people have told us this and we have respected them. The way we, you know, the way we like our fashion, the way we drive, for example. If you've been taught something, really good to just stop and think, is this really serving me? Because you respect that driving teacher, instructor, and he's been driving for so long and he teaches for so long, but he may have some old school system beliefs that he pressed upon you. And while you've been able to successfully drive, you haven't had too many car accidents, just a few misses, you assume that everything they taught you was exactly perfect and is fine. And you've kind of, you know, tilted it and tweaked a few things, but you still have their lessons and teachings placed upon you on your belief systems of your foundational understanding of how to drive and whatnot. Of course, you know, apply this to everything, my friends. So stop and think about that for a minute. You know, you're very capable of thinking and seeing things from the bigger perspective and what really serves you and how. And so has there been any teachings from other people that have pressed upon you as you still do your daily living? You know, there is so much to be said about us routinely living and not really being the owner of those certain belief systems. And it's kind of like, I love this one, where they sort of say, you know, you start playing with makeup and the fashion trend is that blue eyeshadow. And so, you know, it looks good once, it works once. And so forever in a day, you're going to have the same makeup and it's going to be perfect with the blue forever. Doesn't matter what fashion trend, whatever is happening outside of you and growing and evolving, you're still stuck in one perfect look. And, you know, we have to look at everything that we've been taught. And sometimes we forget we will forget who taught us certain things, like cooking, right? So sometimes when we cook, we have the love of the chef, and so we want to do it exactly right. Now, that chef has their own palate, their own flavors, their own way of living, and they like certain foods, but we don't know that they don't have a great sense of something and they're not allergic to something, but we want to copy them because we love them. We want to mirror them and we want to honor them. So we feel like we've got to do exactly the right same thing. It may not be fully your perfect meal, but in honoring that teacher, you're copying and pasting exactly what worked for them. Now you have to honor your own palate, your own textures, your own allergies to whatever. Oh, reminded me of the session I had just yesterday where she's allergic, she doesn't process dairy. Now, if you're dairy intolerant, the very first thing I would be asking the subconscious is, what's the connection with the mother? Because if you can't tolerate other being's milk, it's because you're craving the milk from your own mother. Now, you could be, 75 and not really wanting to breastfeed from your mother, but it's about nurture. So you cannot accept and stomach other beings' milk because you're still craving the milk. You're craving the nurture, I should say, from your mother. And so, we use food as a source of love. And so, it's hard when the clients have such great pain from childhood because they were not nurtured and supported by their mother. And it's all they've really been craving their entire lives. And actually having a dairy makes them sick. And so when you go back and explore these sessions and understand what's going on there and why, and we just think, oh, well, dairy, it's a common thing. Everything that your body is reacting to is a message for you, is definitely a message for you to look at some inner work there. And interestingly enough, I hope she won't mind me sharing, but it was that she did have a problem with the mother when she was growing up. And so she learned, her body started shutting down, processing other beings' milk, because all she was really craving was the milk of the mother, but not wanting breast milk, but wanting the love from the mother. So I hope that translates well. And anyway, found out from another lifetime she had, she was forced to eat the family pet, her beloved pet of a cow, and sort of broke that little girl's heart, really, as you could imagine. And so not only does she have this lifetime's problems of feeling nurtured by the mother, which can be resolved because it's a reflection of what the mother was going through, not really a reflection of what the daughter was going through. And she has now empowered herself fantastically. So now she can eat the cheese she wants. But it was so sort of emotionally hard, because if you have a fantastic mother this lifetime and you think, I'm allergic to dairy, what the F is she talking about, this silly girl? Check your other lifetimes, because the cow was her best friend and the family produced the cow, made the cow into produce, and it broke the little girl's heart. And so very sad, but all contractual. The cow wanted to have that lifetime contract to make that little girl be very respectful for a life contract, for a soul to give true service to the family so it could be nourished. And lots to unpack there, and it's always really fascinating, but very hard for the client to accept this. If you only can recall this lifetime and you've read through some metaphysical books and it doesn't really seem to resonate or apply to you, and you're sort of curious about, that doesn't work for me, that's all nonsense, check other lifetimes, because they deeply impact us this lifetime. So it's always interesting and super significant to explore all the things that are going on and impacting you this lifetime, because it will make lots of sense. Okay, I don't know if I've answered everything that I really wanted to, or expanded upon everything I really wanted to, and I'm conscious this is probably quite a long conversation. So I'll eventually listen back to it and see where I need to expand upon it. But I hope you guys get the idea that you're very powerful, you're very capable of healing yourselves when you understand that what the body is telling you and the lessons there. It's very literal. So anyway, I love you guys so much, and I hope you're working on truly loving yourselves.